everybody out there? This is Popular Stranger, and we are back at you again today with another Madden 20 video. Today, we're going to be taking a look at some content featuring QB1 and franchise mode, which are new things coming to Madden 20. There was a live stream just an hour ago or so on Twitch, and what you guys are going to see for most of this video are the highlights and clips, just exactly direct footage directly from the stream. Let me just say a couple things about it, what you're going to see there. There were some audio issues during the stream, so it's not my video. You're going to hear like a clicking sound throughout the whole stream. I apologize for it, but it was something that came on EA's end there. And then we're going to go through the blog, just kind of skim through it. So this is giving you the written information on what we learned today. So we're going to go through this together right now. I have not read this yet, but I just got done watching the live stream, and then again after we go through this blog, we'll show you guys some highlights of the stream and the information that you wanted to know. They'll be doing this every Thursday. Next week, they're going to be talking about the X Factor abilities, which they kind of touched on tonight, but I think those are going to be in other game modes like MUT. The following week will be a MUT dedicated stream, so I can't wait for that one. And then we'll just, we'll get some more information on Madden Mobile and gameplay and a bunch of other things. So let's quickly take a look at the blog here. And I will leave a link to the blog down below in the description. Preparing for the pros, this is basically just kind of showing you guys or telling you guys, basically it's quarterback only. So it's like a superstar mode, but you're going to pick your player, and there's, I believe, 10 colleges, and you'll see that. And you're going to play with that guy throughout college and try to get them to the national championship. And then eventually you're going to go to draft day and you're going to have your combine workouts, and then you're going to get drafted, and then you'll play with that quarterback throughout their NFL season. So it's kind of telling you guys, basically what you do to prepare for the pros. Once you get into the league, that's when you're going to join a team, obviously, and you're going to join a bunch of other players, and there's a lot of different tools to upgrade your player and your teammates. They did mention like ratings are going to be severely nerfed, so you're going to see a lot of like actual NFL players in the game that are like 50 to 60 overall, but they said they're kind of stretching that out to give you more of a feel of upgrading those players, and I guess maybe making the progression experience a lot better. So I like that. I'm not a franchise player, but I think with this QB1 mode, it's something that I want to get into. And then it just talks about some other things within franchise, like, the upgrading I mentioned, the Pro Bowl. There's the rating spread thing that I had mentioned. There's a scenario engine that they're going to talk about, which it gives you random situations with your player that can, affect or change morale, ratings, just your player's archetype. Which is basically the type of quarterback you select. It could be a pocket passer, a scrambler, things like that. They talk about the development traits, the coach mode, contract updates, progression updates. Again, I'm just going to let you guys hear it directly from them, but I did want to skim through the blog, and I'll leave you that link down below in the description. So one very important thing that they talked about, and this will affect the game, all throughout, is the gameplay effects update. And we've implemented a ton of changes like throw power overhauls to change QB trajectories, which means like user lurking over the middle. It's just really easy to jump a route. Really curious to see how that works, but there's going to be a gameplay stream on May 23rd. So not a ton of info in this blog. I mean, not as detailed as they went through on the stream, so it's probably going to be a long video. If you missed it, enjoy it. If you got any questions, leave them down below in the comments section. I'm out.
Lots to talk about with Madden.
All right, well, let's get into it. First off, we're going to talk about Face the Franchise. You're going to go ahead and pick your school. That's one of those things, and we'll go ahead and take a look right here. We have a little animation, very fresh, very modern. I will say Madden 20 and the creative design is really, really nice and modern, which is really exciting, kind of pop and feel to it.
Yeah, I mean, that was a big focus for us to make a more, youthful, exciting, modern Madden.
Very authentic. So let's go ahead and talk right here. We have a screenshot. When you go into Face the Franchise QB1, you're going to go ahead and choose your school. Walk me through the screenshot right here.
Yeah, so one of the cool things about Face of the Franchise is it is a story about personalizing your journey to the NFL. We did long shot a couple years ago. We had Texas and Oregon in there, but the disappointing thing for our fans was that it wasn't you.
Yeah.
And you never really played with Texas and Oregon. So this is an experience where people are going to get to choose one of these 10 schools, play through this past year's national championship, the playoff in Dallas. Hopefully they get to Santa Clara for the
Okay.
national championship. There's no guarantees. So this is, you're playing full games. Your guy is the face of that team. He's kind of the Cardell Jones
Okay.
storyline, where he's a super talented player who is thrust into the limelight. Can he step up and put himself in the conversation for that year's draft? So could he springboard by playing well into being drafted alongside Kyler Murray, Drew Lock? We want him in that conversation.
That's awesome. And
Yeah,
I
I
know-
mean, this mode is really about feeling like you are in this story.
Got it.
And if you can't create somebody that looks like you, it doesn't
yeah.
feel like you. You're just picking somebody. So in the last few years, I think with Madden, you're really just picking a generic head, and you couldn't modify it at all. So we're building a whole suite of tools to allow you to really craft somebody that looks like you: hairstyles, beards, nose shape, nose length, mouth shape, all this cool stuff to make it feel personal. You can even change your voice.
I know the next thing after this, we have another screen, is that once you kind of go ahead and do the face editing, you're gonna be put into a situation where it's like you're gonna pick your QB archetype. Can you talk a little bit about QB archetypes and what those are?
Yeah, we had archetypes in the game last year, but this is really going to set you down your path. And I think people have heard about superstar abilities. This first choice here, is setting you down a path of the type of quarterback you want to develop into, but it's also giving you your first superstar ability. And that's one of the exciting parts about this mode, is this is really a campaign into a superstar mode, franchise type experience, where this is your journey to the NFL, but some of these choices, where you get drafted, how you play, what team you end up on, leads into your career. So
Okay.
these first choices are actually really important if you want to go on and win Super Bowls, make the Pro Bowl.
Some impacts.
Everything you do in this mode matters. It either changes the type of quarterback you are, your draft position, improves a relationship with the character in the storyline. That is one thing that we really wanted, is if you have a story scene, you're making a choice, and the choice matters.
Yeah, that's great. After all this, you're going to go into your combine, and like you were talking about choices, there's a lot of things that are going to happen, that you're going to have to make some tough choices, and you're going to have to make some decisions. We have some, like right here, you'll see a little screenshot, a little video here of your NFL Combine experience. But walk me through the NFL Combine experience in Face of the Franchise.
So the Combine experience, again, was meant to make you feel like you were competing alongside this year's quarterback class at Indianapolis. And we run you through some drills, and we have you do some Combine GM interviews. So you're meeting with GMs, they're putting you on the hot seat. It's meant to be kind of a whirlwind. You're doing a press conference from there. So again, we wanted to sort of put you in these real authentic NFL moments, red carpets, press conferences, the Combine, the Pro Bowl, college playoffs, all these things we haven't had in Madden before, but it's really about your story and having this, NFL fantasy of being in the league or on your way to the league with real players. And, you bump into Patrick Mahomes, you see Kyler Murray on the red carpet. It's meant to feel like you were immersed in this year's path to the draft.
That's awesome. That's really, really great. I mean, right there, and we have here's like a little a scene from the game of you going through that NFL draft sequence. So if you want to talk a little bit about this and kind of like the mindset behind in the creation of all.
The type of quarterback you are, your choices do matter, and we're handing it over to what we're calling the scenario engine, which Hughes, one of our senior designers, is going to come up and talk about. But that is our way to extend a story. It's more of an RPG. Some people have compared parts of it to NBA's The One, but each, week to week, we're generating storylines that feel authentic to living the life of a star and represent more of the things you go through as a face of the franchise, the types of questions you'll be asked, the pressure that's put on you, and they have impacts on your team, You know, could be morale, could be your ratings, could be your XP. So there's a lot of things to manage. And one thing I'm actually really excited about is the player progression. Because of the superstar abilities and X Factor, I think you're going to have a lot of fun, you know, building your character. It'll be more like a game like Spider-Man, where it's almost like a loadout. You might have unlocked this thing Patrick Mahomes has, but it's just not right for the way you play.
Yeah.
And you might unlock a different thing and try that on like a Tom Brady ability that might more suit how you play. So I think you're really going to feel like you're crafting a superstar instead of just getting better ratings.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. So scenario engine, you know, Mike brought it up.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk a little bit about that. Can you elaborate on the scenario engine and how that kind of plays a factor in the game?
Yeah, I sure can. Touched on this a bit, but as you are going through your franchise experience, and if that's either in player mode or if you're playing through coach mode, you're going to be triggering these different conversations based on what it is that you're doing in your season. So if you're having a really good season, you might have some scenarios that are triggering that are based on the opponents that you're going up against.
Got it.
So we're adding in these new X factors, which everybody's going to hear a lot about going in our future streams. And we're going to highlight those guys. We're going to give a lot more identity to the teams that are in franchise mode and the players that are in franchise mode. So you're going to, as a coach, let's say, you get a text message from your offensive coordinator. And he's going to say, hey, we're going up against J.J. Watt this week. And how confident are you in going up against this guy? We're going to let you choose what kind of objective that you want to take into your upcoming game. So are you just going to win the game? Do you think that you're going to be able to avoid getting sacked at all that game? Do you think you're going to be able to throw for 400 yards that game? And based on that, you get better rewards based on your harder decision. And also, if you go in and you complete that goal, if you're having a rough season, like if you're struggling, we're actually going to reward you some more XP than if you're having a really stellar season.
Got it.
Yeah, so this year, the ratings guys have taken on a pretty massive effort into rebalance how we're doing our ratings. They've stretched them out greatly. And this means things like, to give people some example of the scope of these changes, we probably have around 400 less players that are at 70 OVR or higher. I think this is something that people are going to have to get used to. They're going to be surprised to come into the mode and see that some of their starting players are in the 50 OVR range. This does a lot of cool things for gameplay and for your experience playing through franchise. Your players are going to progress longer. You have a longer runway to get them to the top now. And it also makes the difference between some of our players even greater than it has been before in terms of, let's say, a player that is 79 OVR going up to 80 OVR. When you make that upgrade, he's going to gain a lot more rating points than he has in previous years because we actually are using a wider range of ratings than we have before. And it's also going to mean that our star players, our superstars, stand out even more from our other players because the rating stretch is so big.
Sorry, brain thought there. So, like draft updates, how are those going to work out in the game this year?
So, somewhat of what I just mentioned a little bit about we're going to have a little bit more variety in terms of the players that you're drafting, their names, information about them, what their ratings are, the hidden developments on rookies that are superstars or X factors. Those are some of those changes. We're on the going back to your previous question though, where you're just asking like, what about tuning for the whole mode?
Yeah.
We're looking at a lot of the systems that already exist inside a franchise. So re-signing your players. There's some exploits out there where you can do some things to the contract length or how much you're offering for a salary or a bonus that really isn't what we want it to be. So we've gone in and we're updating the logic there to kind of avoid those and make it a more authentic experience for people. That's one system that we're touching. We're also looking at trades, how we're valuing players going into trades. We see a lot of feedback from people of not being fully happy with what trades are accepted or not. That's going to be an ongoing effort. It's a pretty complicated space when we're dealing with players' ages, we're dealing with their OVRs, we're dealing with the needs of the teams, we're dealing with how many players are in the league. We're trying to cram a lot, and that's just part of it into the mode.
Okay. So quick, so we got a screenshot right here. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. Walk me through a little bit, because you see different colors and you see different kind of things, and it looks like a MUT screen, but you guys have made some changes to the overall lineup this year. Walk me through that.
Yeah, so we've come in here, we have given users a full screen experience for managing their roster, which before has kind of been a scramps, it was a tighter space.
Yeah.
We're doing that for a couple of reasons. Over on the right-hand side, you can't really see it, but when you tab over to that with the thumbstick, it'll pull out this panel, and that's where you manage your X Factor abilities.
Got it.
So
Okay.
you can only ever have 3 X Factor abilities active on offense at a time, or only 3 X Factor abilities active on defense at a time, and that's where you're going to control it. Again, in next week's stream, I think you guys will get into that a little bit more.
Yeah, we'll definitely be getting into the gameplay, into the Superstar X Factor ability stream next week. So we're really excited about that.
Gold
So
background. The players on this screen, those dev traits are still a work in progress, so these might not be the ones that we ship with either, just so that you know.
got it. No, that's great. I mean, there's we're saving a little thunder for later on to
Yeah.
kind of show our players and whatnot. So next up, do we have any more additional screenshots that we're going to go ahead and share with our squad? There we go. Let's take this the scheme fits and whatnot.
Yeah, so we really have been trying to refresh a lot of the different areas of franchise mode. I've touched on some of them already. Scheme fits is another space. This was something that we added in last year, and we're making it better this year. We're going in, we're adding some new schemes that give you better personnel variety that you can set up your team with. We're also going in at some of the existing screens. We're also looking at our XP progression, and that's a really big one that I didn't touch on when you were asking about tuning of the mode. We really are reevaluating all of the sources of XP that come into the mode, and scheme fits are one of the biggest ones right now. We went really heavy-handed last year in terms of how much XP we give you if you're a scheme fit, and it made it really hard for players to build teams with players that did not fit that scheme fit.
Got it. Yeah.
And we know that we want to continue to improve this system year over year, and once we get some better flexibility in terms of the variety of positions that are assigned to an individual slot. Let's take wide receivers, for example. Right now, our schemes support one archetype for a wide receiver. We know that that's not as flexible as we'd like to have in the future. So in order to kind of prevent people from feeling like they always have to go for a deep threat if they have a scheme with the deep threat receiver on it, we've taken that XP buff that used to be 50% and taken it down to 10%. So you're still going to want to get players that match your schemes, but it's not going to be so limiting that you can't build a more versatile team.
Awesome. Talk to me about the Pro Bowl. That was one of the things that we were talking about.
Yeah.
So we see a lot of images out there, and people are hyped about that.
Yeah, I mean, it is the first experience that you're going to see when you come into Madden as a whole. But in franchise mode, it's actually a really exciting moment now at the end of the season. If you have been selected to either coach the Pro Bowl or play in the Pro Bowl, you get to now play on the field with all these other guys that are at the top of their game for your most recent franchise season. And what really makes it special is all these new abilities that we've just added to the game. When you play through your normal franchise games, unless you do some fishy stuff, you're probably going to have a team that only has a handful of X Factors and Superstars. In some cases, you might not have any X Factors on your team. But when you get to these Pro Bowls, the whole field's going to be covered in these guys. And it really makes it feel different than we've seen in previous years at the end of the season, where before all you would get is just a list of players.
No.
And another thing that's really awesome for this in multi-user leagues, which I've fallen in love with multi-user leagues ever since joining the franchise team, is that we are setting it up so that if at the end of the season, is in coach mode, the tuning right now is you need to get 6 wins to be able to be picked for the Pro Bowl. We're going to pair players up against each other so that they can play head-to-head matchups in their own versions of the Pro Bowl. So, again, this is something I'm really looking forward to at the end of my franchise seasons of playing against the other guys that are playing in the league. We're going to pair people up based on their record for the season, and it's just a way of it's going to be a fun experience.
That's awesome, man. So gameplay, I heard that also the gameplay effects were updated for franchise.
Gameplay effects.
Sorry.
You'll
So like
Yes.
throw power overhauls and QB
so,
trajectories.
So some of the mechanics, I think the gameplay guys will get into that a little bit more, but throw power is something that's been updated. It's the ball trajectory that we're seeing from some of our past types wasn't exactly what we wanted in last year. Again, I'm going to let the gameplay guys touch on
Okay.
that a bit more, but it is coming.
That's awesome. Great stuff. So, Hugh, thank you so much for coming through. Really do appreciate it. You know, you guys are doing some amazing work. I mean, there's a lot of things happening in franchise, also face of the franchise QB1. Honestly, the people that are still here in the office, I'm looking around, they're really the faces of the franchise, just putting in those long hours to make things happen. So thank you to the franchise team for doing all that they do, man.
Yeah, thank you as well.
Hey,
Thanks
no
for
problem,
talking
man.
with me.
Appreciate it.
And
We're going to go ahead and bring
thanks to
back
all of our
in
players.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll close this thing in style, man. You crushed it, dude. Thanks.